good evening, and thank you for joining me once again. This is night 2 of the Bootcamp. All right, guys. So I appreciate you being here. This is going to be a complete transformation. If you do yesterday's all the way through Friday, we are going to have the time of our lives right now, and we're going to make sure everything is going. Let me know if you can hear me right now, and that we're all good, and then I'll know, and we'll be good to go. So, all right, sounds good from KC. All right, sounds good. So, this is exciting. So, we have some winners from last night and throughout the day that entered put their homework on the Facebook group. So, there's going to be prizes every day. Obviously, there wasn't a prize the first day. The prize was you showed up, right? So, make sure you drop from where you're watching and over there. I would absolutely love to know. It's just fun to know. And let me know what guitar you're holding in your hands for tonight. I know we all like to talk about guitars, so drop it in the chat over there. Let me know where you're watching. I'll answer all kinds of questions at the end, maybe the last 10 minutes. So you can ask them now, but I'm definitely going to hope that you ask them again at the end so I don't have to scroll through everything. But yeah, let me know exactly where you're watching from. And I'm going to draw 5 names from people that out of the 50 or so people that submitted homework on the Facebook group. So it's going to be to your advantage to submit the homework all week long, Monday through Friday and into next week. There'll be a couple of little bonus sessions, okay? So I'll draw that in a second, but I want to make sure I review with you guys exactly where to find everything you need, okay? So the first thing we need to know here is why just getting my setup just right here, okay, guys? Okay, so first thing we need to know is where's my stuff? Give me 1 second here. I gotta get my screen share going. 2 different things going here. Let's see if I can. Why is that not doing that? Give me 1 second here, and I'll get my screen up here. It's showing an old video here, so 1 second. All right, so yeah, let me know where you're watching from. I gotta get my screen share thing correct. Oh no, it's not working for a second. Give me 1 second, guys. I have a little technical difficulty here. Let's see. But yeah, we're going to do a drawing here in a second. I just got to make sure you guys know exactly where you're going, okay? So that we can find everything. And why is this trying to do this to me at this moment? I'll try again here and see what happens. It's not letting me screen share tonight. Hold on 1 second. I might have to close my entire thing down for a second and see what happens. It's like frozen on something for some reason. Interesting. Let me see if I can get this to work. All right. Well, I'll see what happens here. I might have to figure something out. So bear with me. Bear with me for a second. We're going to get this going here. I just got to figure out why this is not wanting to load at this moment. It's frozen on an old thing from a long time ago. Let me try this again. Oh no. Let's see if this. There we go. Now you guys can see all my emails. How about that? So sorry, I had to do that real quick. I had to fix something. So give me a second here. So I want to make sure you guys can find everything. Sorry about that. Let's see. You never know with these things, you know what I mean? There's no telling what's going to work and what's not going to work. Okay, so here's where you got to find everything, okay? So sorry about that, you guys. I'm going to drop this in the chat right there. It was like my streaming software was like frozen or something. So this is the page you need to find all the replays and everything like that. So make sure you download the workbook right here. Join the Facebook group. Here's day 1 replay. After tonight, there'll be a day 2 replay underneath there. You're going to want to get into this Facebook group, okay? This is where everybody is posting, and I can't express the gratitude I have for, everybody getting in here and posting. And everybody that posted is going to be entered into a drawing here in just a second before we get started today. But make sure you start posting the homework in here, because look at all these people posting. All these people are posting, and this is great. This is where we're going to encourage everybody. There's some new ones in here I didn't get to respond to yet. I will respond to all these. Believe it or not, I don't have a team. It's just me. It's just me running this whole thing here, okay? So, and there's the events in there, and yeah, all that. So there's that. So let's see. That's that. So the only other thing that I wanted to say before we got into it tonight was this. Okay, so you're going to be tempted to maybe go over to my website, and you're going to be tempted to go over to my website, and it's a private Facebook group, by the way, but you're going to be tempted to go over to my website. You don't have to do it through Facebook. You can just send the homework to the email. I had a couple people email me. So if you send everything to the contact page, like if you go over to my website and you go over here and you go to contact, you can submit your homework right here on this contact page, because some people don't like Facebook. So there's that. You can definitely send it straight to that right there, and then you'll still be entered. Anybody that sent it through email is entered right away as well. But you're going to be tempted to come over here and take a look at these deep courses, this membership over here that I've got, the 5 pillars of music theory, this triad magic, all this stuff, uncaged, unlocking 7th chords, going deep into the pentatonic, Chord Lick Chord Pro, the vault, which is like hours and hours of like hundreds of lessons on specific topics, and a beginner guitar thing to refresh your skills. Listen, I don't want you to go in here and buy any of this stuff. Please do not do that. That's not what this week is about, okay? Plus, at the end of the week, I'm going to talk to you just for a second about something that's going to be a major, major kind of deal here, all right? So with that being said, do not go over there and buy this stuff. Don't do it, okay? So we're going to talk about this stuff later. Let's get into the drawing, all right? I'm going to have Friday, I'm going to give you guys a massive, massive announcement on an amazing deal on some of this stuff. So let's do a drawing with everybody that entered the homework, either through email or not, right? So let it just happen organically. Man, you guys are really getting it going tonight. All right, so look, I entered everybody who was in the draw into everybody that either sent an email or didn't. Look, you can't see it, but this is a Summit Guitar School hat. It's just upside down. If I dump it out, all these names. Look, over 50 names of people that either emailed or joined the Facebook group and posted their homework. Like I said, you don't have to post it in Facebook. Some people are against it. I'm drawing 5 names, and I'm going to give away 5 free courses tonight. So I'm going to give away 5 of my Chord Lick Chord Pro courses. This is literally where I'm just teaching you guys. It'll be like some of your favorite ones you've ever seen online, but with like the tabs that go with it, and like literally over 50 of these things in there. All right, it's like 30 to 50 different ones. Okay, a literal hat. Yes, a literal hat. We're drawing out of a hat, and guess what? This might be a hint at what one of the other prizes are later in the week. All right, hint, hint, hint. Multiple hats, multiple shirts coming down the line here. All right, so check this out. We're going to draw. Let's do some drawing right now. So we got 5 people that are going to get the Chord Lick Chord Pro, all right, course. So first one, I just grabbed it randomly out here. I'll do it. I'll mix it up. Same one here. So here we go. Brian Flick, you are a winner. You can't see that, but that's what it says. Brian, you're a winner. I'm going to reach out to you. Next one. Jay Wood, you win. I saw you in the chat. Jay, you win. There's another one. All right, give you a virtual round of applause. I'm mixing them up. Grab another one here. Justin Varro, you win as well. You can't see that. That's 3. We got 2 more. 2 more. JJ Johnson is a winner as well. Just here for the swag, Mark. All right, that's for later in the week. That's 4. We got 1 more. 1 more, all right? We're going to give away 1 more right here out of the lucky hat. Here it is. I'm not going to put anything back. Tony Salas is a winner as well. You can't see that. But look, you guys are going to get these things. So either reach out to me through Facebook. I'll reach out as well. But you guys have won. You don't have to post anything on Facebook. Send it to me through that contact page. We're going to get into teaching now. And yeah, this is I'll just dump them out now because it doesn't matter. There they go. This is a hat that may or may not be up for grabs later this week as another prize. So let's get into the teaching. Today, hey, by the way, this is not really about prizes. This isn't about like anything besides like growing you as a guitar player. I'm trying to teach you guys the language of music, okay? So let's learn the language of music, not just licks, okay? You've seen me teach licks for months, maybe years on YouTube or on Instagram, right? I want to teach you the why behind this stuff, because when you know the why, you can create whatever you want, wherever you want. Right? You can create whatever you want, whenever you want, if you know the why behind it and you know the language of music. Today, we're going to map out the fretboard, okay? So let's see what we've got going here, all right? So we are going to pull up our handy-dandy ebook, all right? And we're going to take a look at session 2 tonight. There we go. I couldn't get my stuff to work, man. All right, now we got it rolling, all right? So don't pay attention to this guy. I'm just kidding. So we're going to master the fretboard. I'm going to show you the ins and outs of the way I like to teach CAGED. I'm not going to read all this stuff tonight. I want to get straight to the good stuff, okay? You guys can read that on your own. What we want to talk about is the CAGED system. Even if you've already learned this before, it's time to learn it again, okay? Time to really map it out, okay? We're going to start with, let's see, we'll start with this page first. So what we're talking about, what is the CAGED system, all right? First of all, why would we ever need the CAGED system? Why can't we just feel it out? So-called feel it out, right? So the big thing is, how do we feel it out, right? I spent years feeling it out. Let me give you some advice. I was playing gigs for literally years without much fretboard knowledge, which was great until I started playing with guys that were better than me. They would say, play a different voicing in a different spot. We're going to change the key of this song. Oh, I need you to do a walk down in a different spot. Or the one guitar player's playing here, right? You don't want to play in the same spot as that guitar player. You want to move it around and feel good about what you're doing by changing where you're at on the fretboard, getting different voices, isolating chord tones, knowing where you're at all times is the key to being able to play this stuff, all right? I don't care what level of guitar you're at, you can learn this right now. You don't have to be at the intermediate level. This is stuff, I teach this over and over again because it takes a while for this to seep into your brain, all right? So bear with me here. We're going to go through this thing. I'll take questions at the end, and we're going to learn some of this CAGED system stuff tonight. I'm going to show you the whole thing, and I'm going to even give you kind of a little exercise that you can practice that's not in the book. Bonus exercise for the day, all right? And that I would love to see in the homework page. We're going to use the deep learning cycle, all right, which we learned about yesterday. You can go back and rewatch that one, but we're going to talk about CAGED. CAGED is simply an acronym, all right? If you've been playing guitar for any amount of time at all, you know a C chord, an A chord, a G chord, an E chord, and a D chord. Well, we're going to use those shapes, but we're going to play them over one chord. We're going to play them all over a C chord in this case, all right? So if we're playing a C chord, we can play the shapes. Now, these are referring to only the shapes at this point. We've got the C shape, the A shape, the G shape, E, and D. We can refer to them as these shapes without actually playing an A, G, E, or D, or even a C chord. In this case, we're going to play C chords all the way up the neck using the C shape, the A shape, G shape, E shape, and D shape. And I'm going to give you some cool little workarounds that some of these YouTube guys don't always show you, all right? So CAGED system everybody hates for certain reasons. I hated it for a long time. Once you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, it will change the way you look at the fretboard, and we're trying to give you that freedom. Okay, so check this out. We're gonna go C shape right here. You also got to learn to use the CAGED shape. So we got the C shape right here. Okay. Now after the C shape, that's this on the diagram right here, right? Then we've got the A shape. We're thinking this shape, right? Well, but not there. We're thinking the next shape up from C. All we have to do is find the highest note in this C shape of C, and we can put our index there, and we can now play the A shape of C. If this bar is too much for you, you can just play root 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, and not even play that 1st string. Another way I like to play this A shape is I just bar my ring finger right here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So check this out. I'll just bar the ring over all 3. Some people don't like that. It's Les Paul, man, trying to go out of tune on me. Right? We're all human here. So look, you can do that 3 for the C shape or the A shape of C, or you cram all 3 fingers in there just like that. Okay? So just like this. So we've got the C shape of C. We've got the A shape of C. And then now look, what have we got? We've got the G shape of C. But how the heck are we going to do this, all right? Well, these 3 higher notes that we have in this A shape of C, we're now just going to bar our index there on that 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, and that's the G, C, and E. So now this is a C chord again. This is a C, this is a C in the A shape, right? C in the C shape, C in the A shape, now C in the G shape. Now everybody kind of doesn't like this shape right here because it's difficult. It feels odd, and if you've thought about it, I don't have a capo over here, but let's say our index was the capo. You could try to grab the entire C shape like this, C shape like this. No one's gonna play that. I've never played that shape. You know, I played it with a capo and then played an actual G shape, but this is the gosh, I did it again. The C shape of G, or dang it, the G shape of C. It's right there, right? So that's the 8, 7, and then I'm barring 5, 5, 5. So that's a C, E, G, C, E. I'm barring that index. Now, there's a workaround here. If you don't like that shape, you just bar right here, the G, C, and the E, and you put your pinky on the 8th fret C of that 1st string, and there you go, right there, okay? So there's your G right there. So you just got to envision that there's the root, there's the 3rd, right? So you can grab all these. So we got the C shape of C, A shape of C, G shape of C, or the workaround. Either one works, all right? I'm going to show you how you can connect these with scales in a second. And then check this out. Yeah, no kidding. Homework is saying C shape, she shape, right? So there's your G shape of C, right? And then if you get this, the pinky, the highest note in that root position right here, becomes your E shape of C, right? So we've now outlined this shape, right? So if you think about the E shape of C, dude, I'm telling you, this took me too long to learn when I was a kid. So like, thanks for watching, everybody. This right here, if I didn't have this capo, or if I didn't have this nut, I would have to bar. So there's an E shape. There's the A. If I didn't have this nut, I'd have to bar here. That's where that goes. Yes, it's called a nut. I know it's a little funny. And then the next one that we get to, after this E shape, our pinky becomes the root. This 8th fret C becomes the root to our D shape. And this is the one that everybody hates, including me. You gotta give me a second, because I gotta tune this thing, man. I can't be on here going out of tune. But yeah, so our E shape, the 8th fret where our pinky is, that's a C. That becomes the root to our D shape. It was that 5th string for some reason. So look, if we're right here, our pinky becomes the root to our D shape. So you can get the full D triad up here, which we'll talk about triads tomorrow. But if you back that up, here's your full D shape. No one really likes this. This is 10, 12 with my pinky, 13 with my ring, 12 with my ring. Or sorry, index 8, middle 12, pinky 13, ring 12. Right? That's a C shape, or that's a D shape of C. Sorry, guys. Right there. Okay? But no one likes that, so I do this. I learned this shape years ago when I was in high school and I was learning all kinds of Tool songs. Right? But I had no idea it was actual D shape. So if I do this E shape of C, and right? That pinky connects to the D shape. I can just do this. It's just a power chord. You're leaving off the major third. But it's just a simple way to get that pattern down. You got 12, or you got 10, 12, 13. Or if you can envision where this root is, you put your fingers right here and just play a D shape of a triad right there. But that's still a C chord. So let's review. You got the C shape of C. That highest note connects to the A shape of C. These three higher notes connect to one of two options for the G shape, either this root position or this one right here, which is a little easier for me to do. Or if you're an overachiever, all three fingers down, 1, 2, 3, all four fingers down, barring your index. This highest note of this G shape, this C, becomes your E shape. Pinky becomes the D shape, either that one, this one, whoops, or this one. And then the interesting thing about the D shape is the D shape is built into the C shape again. Okay? So you've got the C shape here, but we don't have an open note. So here's our D shape. Sorry about that, guys. There's our D shape. All right? And then here is our C shape that's connected. Thanks, John. All right? These are all connected. Now you can bar the 12th fret. So we have this D shape, the overachiever version right here. These three notes are connected to this D shape here, but they're also a piece of our C shape. And this is valuable information, and we'll learn why here in a second. Okay? So you've got this right here. So this one, this is our C shape, but we now have to bar. We can't play this because we have open notes ringing. We got to go C, E, G, C, E. You can either bar that, or I like to kind of cheat it a little bit and just play the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string with no bar. That kind of gets me out of the barring situation, which would leave this note off, okay? And that's pinky, ring, index, and middle. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I'll answer them at the end, okay? So why is this valuable? This is valuable for multiple reasons, all right? Let's first go back and review what we've got now that I've scrolled down where I need to. We've got the C shape of C. We've got the A shape of C. We've got the G shape of C, right? We've got the E shape of C. We've got the D shape of C. I'm going to play the easy version. And we've got the C shape of C again, right? Yes, okay? So that's what this is. So what you're really wanting to do is you're wanting to, assignment 1 here is going to be this. You're wanting to be able to play all these, right? You don't have to be able to play them fast now. You just have to be able to play them. We're looking for C, A, G shape, E shape, D shape, and C shape. Then play them backwards, because what goes up has to come down on the guitar. C shape, D shape, E shape, G shape, A shape, C shape. Assignment 1, I'm looking for it in the Facebook group or to my email that you can find in that contact up there, all right? So we got C shape. You can also get to that Facebook group by the in the description of the video below. So we got the C shape, A, G, E, D, C. All right, assignment 2, memorize where the roots are. There's a reason these are highlighted red, okay? I want you to be able to go through, because we're going to end up outlining chord changes with this. You're going to end up playing pentatonics over this. Now, you want to be able, assignment 2 is find the roots, right? Find the roots and show them to me. C shape, C, and C. A shape, C, and C. G shape, C, C, C. There's 3 in that one, right? E shape, there's 3. E, C, C, C. D shape, there's 2. C shape, there's 2. We need to know where the roots are because we need to know our neck better, right? We want to know our neck better so that we can start mapping out a couple of things, okay? So when we're mapping out some stuff, what I'm talking about is the scales and the arpeggios and chord changes, all right? So check this out. We need to know where the roots are because those are the roots for our scales within that key, all right? What we want to sound like we're not noodling. We want to sound like we can go from this, and this is a key aspect to chord lick chord stuff. You want to be able to master this stuff so you can go C. I just did C's, but I just weaved pentatonics up and down the CAGED system in different chord voicings of C. You're going to be able to do that as well as long as you keep following along and keep moving forward, okay? Keeping the momentum is huge. We want to make big strides in our guitar playing, okay? And that's what this whole week is about. It's about creating momentum and giving you the lift that you need, okay? So, C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape. Okay, so now let's check this out. All right, so now it's no coincidence that there's 5 CAGED shapes. 5 CAGED shapes match up to the 5 pentatonic scales, all right? So everybody's been taught, at least at some point, that the pentatonics have the names, right? They have shape 1, shape 2, shape 3, shape 4. Well, that's great. It's awesome until you realize that it makes more sense to outline, to know what chord it outlines, okay? So if you play a C shape, well, what major pentatonic fits that? Once you learn this, where's the A shape? Once you learn the A shape and the A shape pentatonic that fits, and if you've learned your pentatonics, this won't take you very long to learn, but you want to start to know how they outline chords, because that's the key to leveling up your guitar playing. That's the key that will get you out of a rut and have you navigating the fretboard like your favorite session musicians, favorite guitar players do every time you see them play or you see them shred on YouTube or Instagram or all that stuff, right? You want to get there. This is the path. Keep following along and I will show you, okay? So we've got 5 CAGED shapes and 5 pentatonic scales. You've also got major scales. You can go over that as well. Today we're going to talk about the pentatonics that fit over each one, all right? So we need to be able to navigate through the key of C, through the C chords, all the way up the neck like so, all right? So that's your first step. Second step, show me the roots of each. Believe me, there's prizes involved tomorrow as well. All right, so check this out. You're going to be able to go all the way up and down the neck with that. Now, here's the advantage. You're like, well, do I have to relearn that if we change to, let's say, a D chord? If you change to a D chord, well, you're already in the D shape. Well, if you think about the acronym, what's the acronym? After D, you've got the C shape. Well, we already know this D shape connects to the C shape. So all we're doing is working the acronym again, starting off a different chord, right? What's up, Utah? What's up, guys? Thanks for chiming in. So after the D shape of D, you've got the C shape of D. What's after the C shape? A shape. What's after the A shape? G shape, one of 2 ways. What's after the G shape? The E shape. What's after the E shape? The D shape. Well, let's say we started on A. Here's the A shape of A. What comes after the A shape of A in CAGED? C, A, G. So we've got the G shape of A, or the E shape of A, next acronym, D shape of A, next acronym, C shape of A, and then you're back to the A shape of A, okay? So, interesting thoughts here. You can do it with G. What if we're on the G shape of G? Well, after that, it's your E shape of G. What's after that? Your D shape of G. What's after that? Your G shape of D, your A shape of D, your G shape of D, your E shape of D. These all mix together. So you're like, well, great. How do I apply it? Well, I'm going to show you exactly how you apply it and so that you can start navigating the fretboard on a more professional level here in just a second. Let's remember, first assignment, CAGED shapes over C, up and down, and then show me where the roots of each of those are. These are all in your ebook. You're not going to be wondering what to do, okay? So let's see. Let's take a look at this from like a bird's eye view, okay? I'll show you this, all right? This isn't exactly like, you know, crazy, but let's say we're in the key of C here. So this is where like the dividing line is. So here's your C shape. Here's your A shape. I did this to give you a better thought process. Then your index bars here. Here's your G shape. Then right here, here's your E shape. Then right here's your root. There's your D shape, all connected right there. And then that D shape connects to your C shape. Full CAGED layout, okay? All right, here it is without that yellow mark in case you didn't want that. So I got both of those, all right? Practice the CAGED system up the neck. Cycle the acronym until you get to the next C shape. Post a video of yourself playing these in the community. All right, so now, with that being said, I'm also looking for roots. I want you to know where the roots are. All right? So we want to know exactly where the roots are because that's going to help us connect when we start playing progressions, all right? Now, I have a bonus little lesson for you guys at the end of this. Like last night, I gave you kind of a bonus chordlet chord. So I'm going to give you a bonus little lesson at the end of this on how you can apply this immediately. It wasn't originally planned on doing that tonight, but I think if you got, based on some of the homework that I've seen come in, some of you guys are really ready for this. So I want to give it to you so you can start to apply this stuff, all right? So let's take a look at this. Now, if you've learned your pentatonic shapes, I'll show you that in a second. If you've learned your pentatonic shapes before, but you numbered them 1 through 5, I'm telling you, that gets so confusing. I've been teaching and playing guitar for over 25 years. Over 25 years, I've been teaching and playing guitar, all right? Went to school for music, studied with some of the best jazz musicians in the Kansas City area, studied with some of the best theory guys in the area as well. I mean, guys that are famous locally, not famous like world-renowned. We're talking before the internet here. And I'm telling you right now, you don't need to name your pentatonic shapes. You need to be able to outline chords. So the advantage of CAGED, right, is that you can identify a chord shape, and that specific shape, whether it's C, A, G, or D, has a corresponding pentatonic scale that fits. Yes, there is minor CAGED if that's going to come up tonight, but we're not going to talk about it tonight because you got to get the major done first. Everything's built off the major anyways. So let's stick with major because it does take a while to master this stuff, okay? So instead of thinking these as shape 1, 2, 3, and 4, let's identify them as the shapes from CAGED that fit, okay? If you haven't dropped where you're watching from tonight, please do so. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what kind of guitar you're watching or you're playing as well. Because I just want to know, or drop in there what, your favorite guitar that you wish you had. What's your dream guitar? All right. So my dream guitar is a 59 Les Paul. No, I'm kidding. But of course, it's everybody's dream guitar. But I would love an old 335, just a crazy awesome old 335, or an old Gibson J45. Back to work here. All right. So check this out. Let's say, with that being said, let's look at our C shape. All right, we've got a C shape of C, which gives us an open pentatonic scale here. All right, so we've got the C shape, and I'll zoom in a little bit with my high-tech zooming device here called my hand. So we've got a C shape of C, and then we have a corresponding pentatonic scale here. I'm going to show you how to play it. So the way we're reading these is, let's see. Did I give it to you a certain way? Yeah. So the way we're reading these is like this. I might upload a document where it's in tab as opposed to this. I'll put that in the community and send it out. But we're going to go open 3, open 3. This black piece right here is the nut, all right? I know, another funny name. So this is going to be open to 3, open to 3, open to 2, open to 2, right? And then we've got, this is 1st fret, 3rd fret, open to 3, okay? You're going in that order, right? You're starting here and working up and then back down. So the idea here is you play the C shape of C, and then you play the corresponding scale, alternate picking, okay? So let's alternate pick this just a little bit. So you're going to go starting on the open E. Right? So you don't have to start on the root, but when you finish, end on a root. So the assignment would be up. This is a big assignment this week, or today. Don't go back down to the G and the E, all right? The G and the E would be that one and that one. So go up on the 6th string. Land on the C on the way back. Play the shape. Make sure you kind of identify the roots. Like that. Now we go to the A shape. Allison, I did answer your question today on there. You got the A shape. That's this one. Okay, so now we've got our A shape. Now let's identify which pentatonic this is. If you really know your CAGED shapes, then you can almost see the chord in there, right? So we go back to the C chord. There's a C chord, piece of the C chord. There's a piece of it, and there it is. These other notes are just filling in the gaps. I'm telling you right now, there's an advantage to knowing that each CAGED shape as a chord has a corresponding scale because it's going to allow you to outline chord changes with much, much less effort. And that's something that a lot of people aren't telling you out there on the internet, all right? Or they're trying to make you pay to do it, all right? So check this out. The A shape right here, and then we got a corresponding scale. You can see that chord in there too, C, G, C, E, right? So then you got, and I like the ring bar, but a lot of people like to do 3 fingers. You got... like that. So we're going up the scale, alternate picking, keeping that right hand tight, ending on the C shape right there, or ending on that C root, okay? I'm trying to get my angle just right here. Okay, so like that. So we're gonna go chord, scale, and then ending on that root of that, and then play the chord again. Then we've got our G shape, either that one or that one. Now, this is the shape that you know, like the minor pentatonic is right here, right? And that's where relative minor and major come into play. So we're in the key of C, and every major scale, let me pause for a second. I'll kind of break this down. Every major key has a relative minor, all right? So when you learn, let's say in the key of C, you got to learn what the relative minor to this stuff is, okay? So the relative minor is the minor key that contains the exact same set of notes. So when you learn, in this case, the key of C major and all the pentatonics, you're also learning the key of A minor pentatonic or A minor. You just end on an A instead of the C, but the notes are falling the exact same spots all over the fretboard, okay? So how do you find the relative minor? Well, you could take our major scale from last night and you go like this: C, D, E, F, G, A. The fifth note in any major scale is the relative minor. So this scale, that C major scale, if I stop on A, playing A minor is going to sound like A minor, right? So if I did G, G, A, B, C, D, E, E is the sixth note. So G major and E minor share the exact same set of notes. So bonus for you, if you learn a major pentatonic scale, or you already know your minor pentatonic scales, they also fit for the vice versa, the minor sixth. That's right. So that's something we'll talk about a little bit more as we get further along here, and if you keep moving forward with this stuff. So the idea here is this: if you already know your scales, then you're going to recognize this. This is the scale that everybody learns, A minor pentatonic. But in this case, we're ending on the C's instead of the A's, so this makes it a C major pentatonic over the G shape. So that's where we're at with it, okay? So let's do a little zoom in with my fancy zooming device here. And then, so we got our G shape, and then we've got our scale. I'm going to start on the sixth string, and then I'm going to play the chord again, either that shape or that shape. All right, so either this shape or that shape, all right? So we got two shapes happening here, that one or that one. Now let's go up to the next one, all right? So the advantage here is if you're playing this chord, and you know you're on this kind of G shape, you know you got a scale you can jam on underneath it. Go to the A shape. And then you start to go ahead and do this, right? Then you start to be able to grab these, all right? So for me, the major shapes are a bit of a different number than, let's say, the others. But I'll go back and I'll number the shapes here in a second if you guys need it. So then after our, let's say, G shape, we have our E shape. So here's our G shape. Our E shape is here, right? And then you're going to play that matching pentatonic. This is shape 1 of the major. Okay, that would be shape 2 of the minor. So it's major. This is our shape 1 because our root is here. It's out of our E shape. All right? That's that, exactly. All right, so you're going to want to play these. I'd love to see videos of these alternate picking playing all the way through it. Even if you just do one, you've completed the homework assignment. So if you just do the first one or the second one or any combination, you could do 1, 2, 3, or all 6 of these shapes, okay? There's really only 5, but we have one that repeats up here. So your homework is to be able to do that. Show me the CAGED shapes based on the diagrams up the neck and show me where the roots are, okay? So next step, we did our E shape. Let's look at our D shape. We connect that one. Now we have another pentatonic. This is shape 2 of the major. Just like that. Okay, so you're going to want to know where the roots are, know how the E shape connects to the D shape, even if you do the easier versions of that D shape. You don't have to make it terribly hard, all right? And then play the scale alternate picking. I would suggest really listening to these notes. It's something that most amateur guitar players don't do. Just listen to the notes. Don't work through this so fast that you don't actually listen to the music you're playing. I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. Now we've got the D shape, which is shape 2 of the major, and then we're back to the C shape, which is our shape 3 of the major up here at the 15th fret in our index on the 12. So we play that same scale. And the bonus here is that there's all kinds of triads built into each one of these, which we'll kind of hint at and talk about tomorrow. So if this was shape 1, E is shape 1, D is shape 2, C is shape 3, A is shape 4, and the G shape is shape 5 for major. The shape 5 for major is shape 1 of minor, but we don't want to make it too confusing. So let's talk about this. I already kind of showed you why we would want to do this, right? Because we want to be able to map out chords all the way over the neck. Let's talk about that. We want to be able to map chords out all over the neck, all right? But, you know, the CAGED shapes are kind of hard. You still got to get it because this is how you piece everything together on the fretboard, all right? So one of the best things that you can do is make sure you first know the full CAGED system up in the key of C or over C. Then know the pentatonics and then know where the roots are over each of those shapes. But I have a tip that I should have gave you guys last night when it comes to playing scales. You really want to listen to these notes, all right? You want to make these things as musical as possible because a lot can be said with not much, okay? You've seen my chord lessons before. You enjoy them. That's probably why you're here, right? So I'm not playing anything that's terribly complicated, but it always sounds pretty good, right? Well, I kind of got that idea from a teacher that I had years ago. This guy named Phil Rogers in Kansas City, Missouri. And at one point, he had me come in and play scales and modes for an hour and made me listen to each note and play them this slow and really listen. So let's say I'm playing the C major scale. I'll do it up here off the 8th fret. So instead of rushing through the exercise, this is what he was teaching me. He's teaching me to listen to the tone of my notes, teaching me to listen to the sound of these notes, teaching me to play evenly and with patience, all right? This is the language of music, and you can learn this by going really, really slow, all right? So like C, listen to the note. Don't let that note end until the next one begins. Same thing. And at this point, that was bad, but you never want to hear one note end until the next one begins. Connect it like a vocalist. Make it sound as smooth and as connected as possible. Make it sound musical, right? Don't make it a chore to where you're like, I gotta get through these scales because my teacher told me to get through these scales. Then you're defeating the purpose. You're just going through the exercise like you're at Planet Fitness and you're just doing a workout off your phone and, you know, you're just shorting yourself. You know, you're like, I skipped a few reps. We don't want to skip any reps. We're trying to learn the language of music so that you can have a better understanding, a stronger understanding of music so that you can write better songs, play better lead lines, play better improvisations, and just be able to navigate the neck and the fretboard on a professional level, okay? So when you're practicing these pentatonics, you can do the same thing, right? So if I come over here and I go, first pattern, don't look at it like a chore. Look at it like freaking therapy. Play the note. Make it sound good. Sit with a cup of coffee early in the morning and make these connect. Go to the next one. Make it as musical as possible. Or stay up late and play music. I'm at the age now where getting up earlier is better than staying up late. Mostly because I just wake up early. Connect it. Go to the next one. Make it musical. Make it clean. Put on the metronome if you need to. Everyone needs to, just so you know. Connect each note. Listen to them. You don't have to name the notes. Just make them sound good. It's almost like therapeutic to do this. Even live right now, I'm like, it's relaxing to me. Over the E shape. You can go over back and you can do this again with me. Right? Let's pull up that E shape. Oh, you can't see the dang thing. Right? Just connect the notes. Take some deep breaths. Go to the next one. The D shape. It doesn't need to be a chore. Just relax. Connect the notes. Listen to these. Stop on the root. Right? Do it for every single one. Get to know the way the major scale sounds, all right? You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't need to be going... It doesn't sound musical. You don't need to be going... Right? You can get speed later. You got to understand this musical fretboard. You got to understand the fretboard in a way so that you can play music. And we're not talking about... You don't need to shred. You just need to play something nice and easy. Understand the fretboard one step at a time so that you can get to know where you're at, get to know what you're doing, and just get to know the language of music better. That's what I'm trying to teach you guys this week. That's the reason I can play all these chord things, and that's the reason you're going to be able to as well if you're willing to put in the work with me, okay? So one thing that that you should try to do is we should try to do a little application, okay? So let's do a little application today, all right? So what if we did a 1-4-5, right, from yesterday's homework? What if we did in the key of C 1-4-5 with the CAGED system? Okay, I'm going to show you how this works with the CAGED system right now, and this is going to be bonus homework for you guys to try out. Okay, so we do 1-4-5 with the CAGED in the key of C. There's no sharps or flats. It wasn't on the homework yesterday, but there's no sharps or flats, so I didn't give that one. So C, D, E, F is your 4 chord, G is your 5 chord. All right. So we can use CAGED to do this, and I'll show you exactly how, all right? Let's make guitar playing more of a therapeutic thing as opposed to something I'm checking off the box thing, all right? We don't want to make it I just got to check this off my list, all right? So key of C, we're going to go C chord, F chord, G chord, C chord, okay? So we're going to do a C chord in the C shape, F chord in the E shape, the G chord in the G shape. Simple enough, right? Well, let's move it up to the next CAGED shape for each one of those chords. So we did C in the C shape, F in the F shape, G in the G shape. Well, our C was our C shape, so our next one is A. C in the A shape. F was our E shape, so D is our next one. So F, C in the A shape. F in the D shape, either that one or this. I kind of like this voicing, just simpler than this. So C in the A shape, F in the D shape, G in the E shape. Okay, so we now applied it, and now we could play every one of these chords, a 1-4-5, within a 4-fret span, and we can do that all the way up the neck with CAGED, all while knowing we're in the key of C, so we know if we're playing that here, what pentatonic fits. There's the magic of chordlet chord and CAGED. C, scale, F, G, C. Because if I know where the notes are around my chords, then I know I can play a chord into a lick and then back into another chord, okay? So if we did C here in the A shape, what if we go up to the G shape of C? You can do this one or this one. They're all pain in the butt. I'm going to do this one because I seem to like it better. A lot of people like that one. So C in the G shape. F was a D shape, so we know the D shape overlaps with the C shape. So we did C in the G shape. Look, F is here. F in the C shape. G we did in the E shape before, so we know it's D shape. Look how we're piecing this together. You automatically are going to know more than you knew before. C in the G shape, F in the C shape, G in the D shape. And then if you know the pentatonic that fits over that G shape, in this case right here. Let's see if I can zoom. My technology, man, is not wanting to work with me today. So if I go C in the G shape, and then F in the C shape, and then G in the D shape, and then back to the C shape, or C in the G shape, right? So that's kind of an interesting process there, right? And this is probably one of the things that people avoid, right? They don't like the CAGED system because it's work. Well, guess what, guys? Everything is work if you want to get good at something, all right? There's no quick fix. Like all these clickbait YouTube channels where it's like, took me 30 years to figure this out on guitar, but I'm going to show it to you in one 8-minute video. It's not realistic, okay? It took him 30 minutes to learn it on 30 years to learn it on guitar because it was hard, right? So I'm going to try to give you guys as many shortcuts as I can, but there is no there is no quick fix. You just got to put in the work, all right? So now we just did C in the G shape, F in the C shape, G in the D shape. Now C in the G shape leads to C in the E shape. All right, here's our C in the E shape. Where's F? It's right underneath it. F in the A shape. G is this 10th fret. G in the C shape. So now you know if you pull up your matching pentatonic for that E shape. If I can find it here. Where are you? Right here. Right there. Then you can go 1 on the A, C in the E shape, F in the A shape, G in the C shape. Well, you just play the C major pentatonic in between chords. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the F. 1, 2, G, C. Skipped my CAGED thing. C in the E shape, F in the A shape, G in the C shape, C in the E shape. Now, you don't have to keep a time when you're doing this at all. You go C in the E shape, and then go F in the A shape, G in the C shape. This is pentatonic pattern 1 for the key of C major right here, in the E shape right here, Frank. All right, so now you can go up again. You can go C in the D shape. Let's try this. You can go C in the E shape. 1 second. Having a little emergency here. So you got C in the E shape, or sorry, C in the D shape, F in the G shape, and then G in the A shape, like this, okay? So C in the D shape, F in the G shape, I kind of like that better, and then G in the A shape, and then back to C. Now, if you know your D shape pentatonic, which is right here, right there, right? Then you can go C in the D shape, F in the G shape, G in the A shape, and then play a little scale. C, and then F, sorry. The hardest one, I think. Back to that C. So, bonus homework assignment. Think about this stuff this way. Play your scales musically, right? Slow them down. Make it therapeutic, okay? The other thing that you need to think about is going C1, F in the E shape, G in the G shape, C in the A shape, F in the D shape, G in the E shape, C in the G shape, either one, F in the C shape, G in the D shape, C in the E shape, F in the A right? C in the D shape, F in the G shape, one of two shapes, and then G in the A shape. And then you're back to where you started, which was C in the A shape, C in the C shape, F in the E shape, and G in the G shape. Those are hard up there. I don't use those so much. I use triads when I get up there, and we'll talk more about that. So let's recap a little bit here. I'll share screen with you on what we're talking about here. So let's go over here. We're doing the CAGED system, all right? We want to do all the shapes up and down, key is C. This is going to be in the Facebook group. You're going to post videos of this, or you're going to send them to me through the contact page that I added over there, all right, if you don't like Facebook. And then you're going to go C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, and D shape. You can do the easier version of the G shape and the D shape. Then you're going to work them back down, and then you're going to show me where the roots are. That's assignment 1. You got to memorize where these roots are because we got to be able to outline chord changes. Every professional guitar player on the planet knows that a good solo outlines the changes, all right? Doesn't matter what instrument you play. Every great soloist, whether it's xylophone or saxophone or guitar, knows that it's about the chords. So if we don't know where our roots are, how are we going to find the thirds and fifths? Because we're going to talk about those tomorrow. So let's take a look at this. So that's assignment 1. CAGED shapes up and down over the C, and then pentatonics up and down over each shape. You're going to play the chord shape, scale up, and then come back and land on the root and play the chord shape again. Chord shape, scale up, back down, land on the root, and play the chord again. Now, you don't have to get all these because this is a lot of homework, all right? So if you can post 1, then do it. If you can post 2, then do it. If you can post all 5 and then repeat of the first one, then do it, all right? That's what I'm looking for. We have more prizes tomorrow, okay? So there are prizes on the line, all right? And they might or might not have to do with some of Guitar School swag or something else. So you got to come back and find out. But congratulations to the winners. And I have time, so let's go with let's do some questions right now. You guys, I think you guys are you guys pretty clear on the homework? Let me know in the chat. And then let me know if you have any questions, if I missed anything here. Let me know what you got. Or we can just talk guitar. I don't care. What do we got, guys? Any question? Isaiah's mind's blown. Will take time, but golden if you figure it out. Yeah, you're going to figure it out. Mark, sounds like you already kind of worked on some of it. Gibson Studios. Any questions, guys? No questions? All right, well, let me read these names of these winners off one more time here. I know I had 5. Where'd it go? Wait, did I only do 4? Chris Ward did 5. Anyways, I got the 5th one over here. We won't read those off again, but Jay Wood, which shapes do you prefer and which... Oh, when you're jam... Okay, here we go. We got a question here. Jay, I know you won one. So check this out. Which shapes do I prefer? Well, I actually prefer the triad shapes. You know what I'm saying? So if I do, this is for Jay. So look, if I do, I mean, obviously, at first I used to favor the A shape, the E shape, but I find that the C shape right here up the neck, let's say on this, I think there's a bunch of triads in here. There's like a delay on the chat, so it's taking a while for you guys to get these in. Right? So I like the C shape because I got triads built in, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. So I think it's tomorrow, yeah. And now I can create licks out of this stuff, okay? And then I also like the E shape a lot because that's where you can mix major and minor pentatonic. Right? And then I don't know, man. I don't think I have a favorite one, but I think you can get a lot of use out of the G shape, the E shape, and that C shape. But you got to learn them all, otherwise you're leaving gaps out in the fretboard. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see what we got. Yes, they do, Lee. Well, why is my chat not? Do you recommend memorizing more than just the C root note throughout the fretboard for the CAGED system? Well, you're going to do it on C, right? You're going to know where the C root is. At this point, no, because it's too much work. And then we're going to go through and you're going to say, all right, I did C to C. Now let me do D to D. So D shape of D. Let me memorize where those roots are. C shape of D. The roots fall in the same spot. The scales fall in the same spot. So once you learn the CAGED system over, like, let's say C, you got to be able to recognize and do pattern recognition in your head and go, over the D shape, I know where the roots are. Well, my C shape, same roots. The roots fall in the same spot in the pattern as they did in the C shape of A as they do in the C shape of D. Then I got the A shape of D. Roots still fall in the same spot. So what we're trying to do is slowly memorize the fretboard and say, all right, I know I can find my CAGED system with C's and D's and G's and E's, right? Common chords. And I can find the roots all the way up. C shape of D, A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape, back to the C shape, right? And the more you do that in over different chords like C, D, E, F, whatever, and you identify that you can recognize where the CAGED shape is, where the roots are, where the pentatonic fits, then you start to play progressions, mixing and matching them with different chords within the key, and knowing where your pentatonic fits. Golden. It is golden for you guys, and it's going to help you take your guitar playing to that next level. Frank, let's see. I see the relationships between the chords. What's the best way to memorize them? Learn all the notes on the fretboard. I would learn the patterns first, Frank. You got to learn these patterns first. That's the best way. Hold on one second. You got to learn the patterns first, and then start saying, I did it in C, starting on C. I did it on D, starting on D. Because wherever you start in the acronym, you can work up the next. If I started on G, I did this earlier. If I started on G, I can then go, all right, that's the G shape of G. Next acronym's E shape of G. Because if you do that and you memorize where the roots are and you can recognize where the roots are within each pattern, then you're slowly going, oh, I know where my C's are. I know where my G's are. You know what I mean? Because you're repeating the CAGED learning process. You're learning the neck better every single time when you really start to commit these to memory. I'm not learning every single note within a scale like they're written on this page. You know, you could do that, but that's just that's so much work. If you do it one CAGED shape at a time and in different, keys like C, G, and D, and E, or whatever, you start memorizing where those roots are, you have a real system to memorize it. Then you have a real system to memorize your pentatonic scales over CAGED. And then a real system to memorize your major scales and your chord tones over the CAGED, and then all of a sudden things start coming to light, and that's how you're going to be able to take your playing to that next level. All right. I don't want to miss any. When you move, it says, when you move off of just C, you start to see the numbers. Yeah, you start to see the numbers. I got short fingers. Some of these shapes are next to impossible. Any suggestion? You just gotta you gotta simplify them. All right. Oh, come on. Why is this chat not loading? Yeah, John, you gotta simplify them. So you can probably do this C shape. When you get the A shape, you just gotta get what you can get. And on the G shape, you just got to grab this simple one right here. And on the D shape, or on the E shape, you probably played that bar chord before. You just got to kind of cram them in there. If you can't get them all, but you still can recognize the patterns, you're still well on your way to becoming way more fretboard proficient, okay? So if you can still visualize, because I used to sit in class bored to death and visualize the fretboard, all right? I'm that kind of weird guitar player. You can visualize this stuff without playing it physically in your hand, right? So if you can kind of get it close, and that's the C shape and where the roots are, that's the G shape and where the roots are. Even if you just do the upper three strings, John, Marshall, you're going to be able to grab those, you know what I mean? The upper three strings. And then the D shape no one likes, with this weird kind of D shape and then this stretch between index and ring. I just do that and simplify it. That's 12, 10, 12, 13. Or, this one's not terrible. That's just your D triad shape, but in a C chord. It's the upper structure of this D shape of C. And then this one is just going to feel weird, that C shape. So you just got to get what you can. And if you have trouble reaching them, more practice will lead to those fingers being able to get there, right? Usually if it's really hard to do, I used to think I would never get the CAGED stuff when I learned it years ago, but eventually my fingers just started doing it because I just didn't give up and I kept playing it. And even if you have a hard time with it, you can still visualize this and use this as a visual aid to help you take your playing and fretboard knowledge to the next level. Isaiah, oh my gosh, I'm getting questions here, boys and girls. You mentioned a minor CAGED. When you're playing, do you think of major versus minor group patterns, or do you view it as just flattening the third? I usually view it as flattening the third, but the shapes definitely change a little bit. They're similar to what we talked about, but they change a little bit, and it makes it kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm trying to think where the third is and flat it, but I would say depending on where your theory knowledge is, it might be best to see how the shape just in general changes from a major CAGED shape to a minor CAGED shape. And just know that what changed was that third went from a major third to a minor third, right? That's kind of getting deep in there, but yeah. Do you normally play the pentatonic chord of the key, or do you follow the chord changes pentatonic for each shape of the chord? You can do both, but at this stage, I would say right now you want to be able to just play the chord progression and play the key centers pentatonic, if that makes sense. So if I'm on C, I don't know why it does that, I swear. C, F, G, like this. I'm not going to play F major pentatonic, G major pentatonic. It's a lot to think about right now. I would just try to get really good at just playing in the key of C over that progression and C major pentatonic. Same thing here. So I would stick with that. You don't want to get into that just yet. I don't think of it that way. Excuse me. I don't really think of it that way. I think of it as chord tones, but that's going to come down the line. Yes, the patterns go with triads as well. Out of C, you see the shape. Yes. When going up and down the pentatonic, do you start at the bottom or the top? The bottom or top, or from the root note and then go down or up? Brian Flick's got a good tip for the small hand thing. All right, so like I think when I'm playing this pentatonic, wow, you guys are really getting some good questions in here. When I'm getting this pentatonic going, let's say over this G shape right up here. Let's say over the C shape. So, because that's the first one. I always say I'm going to go from, you could start on the root, but I want you to hit all the notes below it as well. So I would say you start from here, the low E, go all the way up. But when you come back down, meaning pitch, I go from low to high, not starting on the root, and then I go from the high down to the low, and I stop on the root so my ear can hear how that note resolves into that chord or to that key. Same thing here on the A shape. I'm not starting on the root, even though I could. And then there's your A shape. I stop on the root on the way back down on each of these. On the G shape, you can just start on the root because the root is on the 6th string. On the E shape, you can start on the root because the root is on the 6th string. If we just start on the root on the D shape and go root to root, we're missing other notes in that. Same thing with these, so I hope that makes sense. So E shape is shape 1, Valerie. D shape is 2. C shape is shape 3. A shape is 4. G shape is 5. Brian Flick, good tip. You got to keep. You're right, dude. You do have to keep. These require good left hand technique. You can't see my thumb at all when I'm playing that A shape, which means I'm not like this, right? You're never gonna get it at these shapes if you're trying to do like a Keith Richards wraparound here, or a John Mayer. He does that too, right? You know, they know when they have to get their hand in the right spot. When I do the G shape, if I do this, there's no way I'm getting that. I gotta have my thumb. This is hard. Gotta have my thumb like all the way back here, right, for the A shape and the G shape and the D shape. Well, sorry, the E shape, and then look and the D shape, like that. So like, if your thumb's up here, you're never gonna get a good arch in your wrist to be able to get those notes to ring clearly. So you gotta have that thumb kind of tucked back so that the rest of the hand can kind of reach around and get where it needs to be. Any other questions? All right. I think that's it for tonight, you guys. So you know what the homework is. Sorry about the little technical glitch at the beginning. I don't know if it'll let me edit that out for later, but we'll try. And I appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget, congratulations to the winners from tonight. I'll contact you, or you reach out to me, but I'll contact you either way. And then second thing would be there are prizes on the line tomorrow. We're going to be drawing for them as well. Again, you never know what they're going to be, but either way, they're going to be good. So get that homework on the site, on the Facebook page. Make sure you get the ebook, all that stuff. And then if you have any questions, just reach out, man. I'm here to help. And then also, do not forget, don't buy any of the courses on the website because I'm going to do a crazy, crazy bonus the last day. All right, and you're going to want to stick around to hear all about it.